Well, it seems like the royal family is in the headlines every day now. The recent news was Catherine, Princess of Wales. She had posted a photograph on Instagram, I believe, and then a lot of people had noticed that it had been Photoshop and highly edited. So people are a little bit concerned about what's going on there, especially in light of Princess of Wales hasn't made a public appearance since around Christmas. So there's been a lot of speculation. Now, we did hear about the abdominal surgery that took place, and that was around the same time that King Charles went in for his procedure. And then, right after that, we heard about the cancer diagnosis. So there's been a lot of things going on. We had Prince William also announce that he was, not showing up to some of these royal engagements. So we feel like definitely there's a lot of churning happening right now. Today we're going to focus on the Princess of Wales and her astrology chart just to see if we can get any information out of this. There's so much speculation out there, so we're going to see if we can get as much information as we can. Of course, some of the information might be kind of sensitive in nature, so I'm going to try to be as fair and unbiased about it as possible. For those of you that are new to my channel, make sure you like and subscribe. I practice Vedic sidereal astrology, which is from ancient India. With this method, your sign might be different than Western tropical astrology, which comes from ancient Greece. So that's just an aside. If you go to a calculator, make sure you go to the appropriate one online. Also, if you're interested in a personal private reading, check down below for details. Okay, let's go ahead and pull up the Princess of Wales chart here. I got it on my paint program here. Here we go. And a quick disclaimer, this is for entertainment purposes only. All statements about the Princess of Wales. These are all speculations about the astrological energies and allegedlys. Okay, so the one thing I want to point out is three members of the royal family are Cancer ascendant. So that's really interesting. So we have the Princess of Wales, which she's Cancer ascendant. We have King Charles, Cancer ascendant, and then we also have Queen Camilla, which is Cancer ascendant. And there's something going on simultaneously with all three. So they're all having the same transits. And what's the big transit that's happening for all three of them is Saturn's going through the eighth house. Now that transit started, just to give you a little bit of perspective, January of 2023, and it's going to end March of 2025. So depending on your ascendant sign, it's going to be different houses. But if you're Cancer ascendant or Cancer moon, this is what's happening for you too. Oop, this is a 5 right here. So all of 2024 right now, we're in the crisis because that's what eighth house represents. So Saturn's in the eighth house. There's a crisis. And it's not just in the eighth house. I mean, it is, but it's also in its own sign. So it is the eighth lord in the eighth house, which makes it incredibly powerful. So it's just so powerful there. It's a time of crisis, turmoil, shocking news, shocking revelations, secrets. What's really, really difficult is that this is a transformative time where we could see a lot of identity changes. So, for example, I use the example of, for example, if Prince William becomes king, that's a change of identity. So there's a lot of transformation happening with this Saturn transit that's going through the eighth house. Now with the Princess of Wales, this is going to represent that, this is a shocking time. There might even be a lot of fear because of what the eighth house represents. Sometimes during the eighth period of the eighth lord going through the eighth house, there can be shocking transformations that occur during its transit. So, for example, I mean, the Princess of Wales could become, the queen during this kind of transformation. So that's the potential is there. I want you to know that. But this isn't going to be a totally happy reading either, because there's been a lot of speculations. At least there's been some people insinuating that maybe there could be some difficulty happening between Prince William and the Princess of Wales. So we're going to talk about that. I'm just going to try to show you what the energies are saying And I'm going to let you all decide. Let's let you guys decide what's going to happen here. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at the Vimshatari Dasha period that the Princess of Wales in. She's in a Jupiter Dasha right now, and that started December 16th, 2022, and that's going to end March 23rd, 2025, right around the time that the Saturn transit ends too. So that's kind of interesting. So for this period of time, she's in the Jupiter period. We're going to talk about that. I have a slide for you to look at for that. So let's take a look here. Because I really want to describe to you, what does Jupiter mean for Cancer Ascendant? Because Jupiter's a malefic planet for Cancer Ascendant. So, okay, so in the slide here, I said the public hasn't seen the Princess of Wales since Christmas. Recently, it was reported that she had the abdominal surgery, and then a photo was released that caused a firestorm because it was photoshopped, and people kind of just wonder what's going on. The Jupiter Antardasha 2022 to 2025. Jupiter is a difficult planet for Cancer Ascendant because it rules the sixth house. And for those of you that are new to Vedic astrology, the evil houses are 6, 8, and 12. So whenever you have one of those houses activated, it can represent a lot of difficulty. Not to mention Saturn's going through the eighth house, and it's the eighth lord. Okay, so we have a lot of difficult energies happening right now. So let me show you in Vedic astrology what the lordships are. You're going to hear a lot about that. In Vedic astrology, we talk about lordships. So if you look at Jupiter, Jupiter's here in the fourth house of Libra. Okay, so this is a focus on home, definitely a focus on home. But then we got to look at the houses it rules. So Jupiter rules Sagittarius and it rules Pisces. So these houses are activated during the period. A lot of astrologers say that it's more important to look at the house lordships over even the house that it's in, because they say look at the houses that it owns first. Now I kind of treat them equally, but that's the idea. So if the sixth house represents crisis and turmoil, it'd be like you're bringing that crisis and turmoil to home. It's really hitting home. Okay, so there's a lot of difficulty that's happening. Now let's talk about what the sixth house specifically represents. And also, I really want to focus on Ketu, because we're trying to figure out what's going on here. So that's what we're going to really take a look at. Now, remember, if you watch one of my previous videos, and I'm backing up for a second, we can look a lot about the marriage relationship by looking at 7 houses from moon, and 7 houses from moon is the sixth house. So it was a little bit controversial when I had that video and I said, there is some difficulty in the marriage. The sixth house is not an easy house. It can be a marriage where there's some sort of imbalance in there. That's what the sixth house represents overall. It's imbalance. I mean, it could be imbalance in a lot of ways. So we could speculate as that. It could be imbalance in that Prince William's going to be, especially if he becomes king here in the near future, it could bring up a lot of imbalance in that he's more focused on the royal duties. Okay, so it could bring a lot of imbalance. Now let's talk about the sixth house and what it means in a general way in the slide here, so I can teach you a little bit of Vedic astrology. So the sixth house represents things like disease. So she had the abdominal surgery, Saturn in the eighth, the sixth house activated, definitely can represent disease. It can represent conflict. It can represent divorce, cheating, accusations, victims, imbalance, debt, servitude, gossip. Karmic debts and imbalance is what it mainly represents. So, like I said, I'm not saying any one of these specific things is happening. I just want to give you all what the sixth house means. You can fill in the blank. It could be imbalance. It could just be the disease part. It could be there's just a conflict. If people want to think, okay, it's cheating or gossip, accusations, those kind of things, I'm giving you all of the words most of the words that describe sixth house. Okay, so I'm not putting the interpretation there. Now, we also got to talk about Ketu there. So right now, whatever's going on, and this could be bringing a lot of stress into the family with King Charles cancer diagnosis too. So this could be bringing a lot of stress. Now let's go ahead and go back to the slide here. Remember, oops, let me show you the chart before we go back to that. Now we want to talk about Ketu because remember the sixth house is activated and Ketu is activated there too. Okay, the Ketu. Now Ketu can represent things like separation. It can represent endings. It can represent things that are beyond our control in a general way. Okay, now she's not in a K2 period directly, but because the sixth lord is activating the sixth house, it's activating some of the qualities of K2. So that's what you have to be aware of. So any planets that exist in the house that's activated get activated as well. Let's talk about K2 in the sixth house. So K2 can have a separative influence. Okay, so sometimes you do see separations and things. A lot of what it represents is loss of control. So K2 represents like feeling like you're not in control of your life, like there's all these events happening around you and there's not much you can do about it. Okay, so that's just all these things happening in the background. Notice also when we talk about Jupiter activating the sixth house, it's also activating seventh from moon. So let me pull that up as well, just to show you in the chart here. So remember, we also got to look at not only that Jupiter is activating the sixth house, but Jupiter, if we go over here to the moon chart, Jupiter's activating seventh from moon. So there's a focus on spouse. So we could interpret that there's a lot of conflict energy right now, and there's a definitely an emotional focus on the spouse right now. Okay, so even though she's went through this abdominal surgery, we're supposing that there's a recovery taking place. There could be some difficulty there. I mean, there's a focus on the spouse, and the sixth lord is activated. The sixth house is activated. There definitely could be some stress, difficult situations going on. And then Ketu can even represent like getting away. That's what I wanted to point out as well, is Ketu can represent kind of getting away from it all, like wanting to create a little bit of distance or something along those lines. Now let's go back to the slide here. Remember Jupiter in the fourth house, it's bringing disruptions into the home life. So there's some disruptions happening. Six lords there. Saturn's in the transit. Remember, there's transformation. Sometimes when Saturn is going through the eighth house, it can bring up being uprooted from home. So there's this idea of being uprooted. So this is definitely a period of turmoil and crisis. Like I said, often when one with Rahu and 12, remember if Ketu's in 6, Rahu's in the 12th house, one wants to get away. So could this be a getaway? Could this be, some sort of period of isolation, not really wanting to be in the spotlight because too much is going on? Yeah, it could definitely be that. So could be some difficulty there. Now, we could be getting more news about everything that's happening in the royal family because remember the eclipses are coming up really soon here. So the eclipses are happening March 25th. We got the lunar eclipse. April 8th is the big one. That's the total solar eclipse. And then we got the two at the end of the year, September 18th, October 2nd. But let's focus on the March 25th and April 8th because those ones are coming up real quick and those ones are going to have some strong influence over this overall situation with the royal family. It's going to affect everyone. Well, even all of us. I mean, we all have our own charts and the eclipses are going to be affecting us. So the eclipses are going to be happening in the signs of Virgo and Pisces. So we're going to talk about that for a moment. Now, what I wanted to bring up is this is where the eclipse axis is in the Princess of Wales chart. So the solar eclipse is going to be over here. The lunar eclipse is here. This is bringing up a lot of difficult energies. I mean, just even considering that, whether you have an eclipse on this side or that side, it always affects both sides of the axis. So even when you're looking at your own charts, realize that even if the actual eclipse is happening, say in Pisces, it's still affecting the sign of Virgo as well. So it's an axis of energy where energy is kind of push pulling along that axis. You have to be aware of that. So with the Princess of Wales, it's happening in the ninth house and the third house. Now, the ninth house is mainly about like religious study, father figures, patriarchy, gurus, teachers. and maybe she is doing a lot of that right now. Maybe she's kind of like recovering, studying a lot. But what I wanted to really bring up is the sign of Virgo. You'll notice there's two malefics there, or well, they're considered natural malefics. Okay, so Mars for Cancer ascendant is actually a really good planet. But if we take a look at Saturn's there, and Saturn rules the eighth house. Okay, so Ketu, the planet, the shadow planet Ketu, which is the south node, is going over and it's releasing a lot of karmas that are associated with this house. Saturn, what does it rule? It rules the marriage. It rules the seventh house, the marriage house. Okay, it rules eighth house, turmoil and conflict. So those things are being activated. We may hear some sort of news around the eclipses because that's all being activated. The other thing is to point out, we got to look at it's happening in the moon chart. The axis in the moon chart is going to be the 10th house and the fourth house. So 10th house is all about public visibility, fourth house is all about home. So what are the eclipses essentially doing? Okay, and I want you to think about that. 10th from moon and fourth moon. Okay, eclipses, what Rahu does is Rahu is eclipsing. It's the shadow that goes over the sun during a solar eclipse. That's what Rahu is. During a lunar eclipse, again, that shadow that goes over the moon. Now we know the shadow is being cast by the earth. I know, but the Rahu is like that shadow. Okay, so when the idea is when Rahu is going over the moon or the sun, it's dimming the light of consciousness. So that's why it brings a lot of disruption into people's lives. Now, there are some astrologers out there that say eclipses are a good time for manifesting. But if we go by what the ancients used to think, eclipses were actually times of bad omens. They weren't actually positive according to the ancients. It was a time to lay low. So we may see some, especially since we're entering eclipse season, we may see some more explosive events happening. Okay. With this, everything that's just happening in the royal family. So this is going to be something to watch very carefully. Now, with the K2 in the sixth house and all those being activated, I'm a little bit worried about the situation between Prince William and the Princess of Wales. At least it's, the influences are there. I'm not saying there's an actual, I don't know if there's an actual problem, but there's definitely difficult energies involved. Let me know what you think down below, and try to be easy on me. Thank you so much for watching, and let me know what you think is happening with the Princess of Wales. So thank you so much and take care, and I'll see you in the next one.